flickering flame each soul holds high, searching for another kindred spark, step by step as time goes by, until we find each other in the dark. And we are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. Not alone. And when two or more are gathered, we raise our voices to the sky, and together we are a family. When all the love we need is standing by, and we are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. Not alone. Alone, we're just howling in the night. Alone, till we help each other live and love and stand for what is right. We are conjuring our forces, coming face to face with every fear. But there's comfort in our voices, reminding us of all that we hold dear. And we are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. Not alone. And we are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone. Not alone.
Good morning, St. Francis. Welcome to our Celebration Center. It's good to have you here on this third Sunday of Advent. Thank you, Trio, for singing that song, We Are Not Alone. I particularly liked the line about searching for kindred hearts. And that's what we're going to do through the rest of this season, especially on Christmas Eve. As we're used to being together, but this year can't be quite together, we're going to try to be together because we're going to have a Zoom Live Christmas Eve. It will start at 7 o'clock that day in the materials that Melissa has been sending out. She has sent you some information about that. Later on, the trios is going to sing Angels Among Us, and our angel wall is growing here. I'd love to see who your angels are and get them up here on this wall as well. So as you prepare it, please bring it up here and we'll get it on the wall for you. Nancy now has something else that she would like you to add to.
Good morning, St. Francis. Here I am in front of Snowy Owl and the Magical Tree, and I've had so much fun painting this mural that I wanted to invite you to add to it. So I've added 10 little white hooks where you could share your drawing, painting, or a photograph of a bird or some animal that might live in a magical tree. It'll be up for a couple weeks, so be sure that you put your name on the back and your art will be returned and new art will take its place. So I think this will be a lot of fun to create with me a mural that will be sharing through the season of Christmas and the New Year. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Nancy, thank you so much for blessing us with another amazing mural for our campus, and I invite you all to follow her instructions and add to that mural. Also, don't forget to add to the other things on campus. Every day it seems like there's another bush or another piece of cactus that has decorations on it. So thank you so much for doing that. Don't forget about our last devotional service, which will be this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. It is on Zoom, and Melissa has sent out the link information for you. I got to tell you about something exciting that happened this week. It was on Friday. The choir came up to be able to sing, and they do their singing in their cars as they're doing it. And KVOA Channel 4 came up and videotaped them. I will have the link available for you if you would like to see that story. It was a wonderful story about what Cynthia and the choir is doing. So Cynthia, thank you so much for that work. And choir, you sounded, well, perfect. All right, one more thing we have to do, and that is, it is birthday Sunday. So Trio, please sing for us.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday to you. Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to all of you who have birthdays during December. Know that we are thankful for you. From that point of joy, I want to go back to something that's a little more difficult. You might notice that we have a white rose on our table. We've had the white rose there all through Advent, but today it's there for a special reason. One of our regular attendees, she used to sit right back over there by the forest on the last row. Her name is Joanne Hansman. She passed away this week, and so please keep her and her family in your prayers. She passed away from COVID, and she passed away on a very interesting day. I happened to look at the numbers that day, and here in Pima County, there were 1,201 people hospitalized that day. That was the highest number that we've ever had, and it was roughly 2.5 times more than what we had at the height of the summer. I also had 2 friends of mine who I got notices about this week. Jeannie and her family, she's our pastor in Ajo, have come down with COVID. And my other pastor friend, Ivan, on that same day, his son was one of the statistics for deaths. I watched, somebody reposted one of our old services, one of the first services where we were not together, where we were broadcasting remotely. And I looked at the numbers there, and it said how long ago that had happened. It was 37 weeks ago. 37 weeks we've been in isolation. 37 weeks we've been trying to figure this out. 37 weeks of distance with lots of difficulties, lots of struggles. Today, our topic is joy, and that's not easy to find in the midst of all that we've gone through, all that is challenging us. To be able to help you, next Sunday evening, the 20th, from 4 to 6 p.m., we are going to have a gathering. We're calling it the Longest Night Gathering. You remember we've done that often. This time it will be more self-directed. We will have some booklets for you, and there will be different stations, and you will be able to direct yourself as you want to. Please come. If you have any of the grief of this season, any of the grief of this year, any struggle that's going on, please come to that gathering. Because in the midst of that, those little bits of joy, the little sparkles of light, that little bit that lifts us up and beyond the drudgery of whatever is facing us, helps us. Joy gives vibrancy to life. And that's what we're going to try to discover today. Let's watch while our candles are lit.
Everyone in the world has gone to bed one night or another with fear or pain or loss or disappointment. And yet each of us has awakened, arisen, somehow made our ablution, seen other human beings, and said, "Morning, how are you? Fine, thanks, and you?" It's amazing. Wherever that abides in the human being, there is the nobleness of the human spirit.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise.
Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh. As if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard.
You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I'll rise.
Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide.
Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, into a daybreak that's wonderfully clear, I rise.
Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave.
I rise, I rise, I rise.
And so, naturally, there I go rising.
Good morning, I'm Beth Acree. I'm going to be reading The Call to Awareness by Jan Richardson, and it's called For Joy. You can prepare, but still it will come to you by surprise. Crossing through your doorway, calling your name in greeting, turning like a child who quickens suddenly within you. It will astonish you how wide your heart will open in welcome. For the joy that finds you so ready and still so unprepared.
Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water?
Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man?
Mary, did you know that your baby boy would calm the storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you kissed your little baby, then you kissed the face of God. Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again. The lame will leap, the mute will sing the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy is Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? The sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again. The lame will leap, the mute will sing the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy is Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? This sleeping child you're holding is the great I am.
As we spend time together during this Advent season, let's once again imagine that we're back in Bethlehem at the stable where Mary and Joseph are, along with Tikiavati and Shlama. But today we have a new animal that's joining us that you may not have known about. This animal is a kitten. So let's go now over to the stable to meet that kitten. His name is Osher. Hi, my name is Osher. I keep watch here in the stable. As much as I can anyway. I mean, I'm a cat, so sometimes I get a little distracted. I like to chase feathers, and sometimes I chase sunbeams and rays of light. But my favorite game is called Surprise. I even startled Joseph one time when he was coming back into the stable. I ran out of the shadows and pounced on him. Oh my gosh, he screamed so loud. I thought I was going to be in trouble. But Mary just bent down and scratched my head. Oh, Osher, you're so silly and you bring so much joy to us. I think that's why your name is called Osher, because it means joy. That's when I noticed Mary's tummy. It was all full and round. As night crept in and the shadows rose, I really wanted to play even more, because I'm a kitty, so that's when I like to play a lot, is during the night. But that's when I realized that something in the stable had changed. It was quiet and hushed. Nobody was talking. Not even Tikkiavati. He wasn't even grazing on any hay anymore, and normally he's pretty hungry. So I went over to Joseph and brushed up against his leg, and he was seated next to Mary, who was breathing slowly and heavily. And Shlama, well, she wasn't flying around anywhere, and I like to chase her around. She's a dove, so I usually like chasing birds. She instead was up in the rafters, keeping watch over everybody. I bounded over to Tikkiavati and asked, "Why is everyone so quiet?" He didn't answer me, though. He just sat there with his head up and his ears pointed. That's when Mary called me over. "Osher, come over here, my sweet kitty," she said, patting the hay next to her, on which she lay. "You always bring joy, and I know that right now you can comfort me as well." So I leapt up onto the bale of hay where Mary lay. I curled up next to her tummy, and as I relaxed, I began purring and gently massaging her tummy. And that's when it happened. A kick! Oh my gosh, what was that? I placed my nose up against her tummy and it happened again. Mary just laughed at me. "Oh, Osher, that's our little bundle of joy, waiting to be born into this world. His name will be Jesus, and he will bring joy to people everywhere, just like you bring joy to those around you." Mary patted me on the head again and grew silent. I placed my paw lightly on Mary's belly and kneaded this little baby boy who was waiting to be born. Funny thing though, now when you see scenes of the stable, you don't really see me, Osher, the kitten. But that's okay. I'm not surprised, because during the night, when Mary was waiting to birth Jesus, I was outside the entrance to the stable, keeping all the mice away so that Mary and Joseph, Tikkiavati and Shlama would be safe inside, waiting for Jesus to be born. So even though you don't see me, I was there, in the shadows, keeping watch, so that more joy would be born into our world. Thank you so much for joining me for our Advent story today. Have a blessed day.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because God has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord.
Good morning, St. Francis, and to all. I am David Osorio, your church treasurer, which is an honor entrusted to me by our blessed church family. This year, St. Francis has struggled to meet its obligations, just like so many other congregations have. 2020 has presented with many challenges, not only financially, but emotionally and spiritually as well. The pandemic has not allowed us to meet for in-person services due to physical distancing and recommended restrictions in CDC guidelines. This has significantly impacted our donations and annual pledges. So many have lost their jobs and are unable to give as generously as they have in the past. We furloughed most of our employees, and we are working with the skeleton crew. The work of the church goes on, and so do the expenses. Today, I ask that you look deep in your hearts and give generously so that St. Francis can continue its ministry and important outreach in the community. We are working diligently to reopen our church campus and bring back our employees together for joy once again. This holiday season, please take a moment to think about all the good this church family does, and united we can spread the love and joy that St. Francis is known for. Your generous gifts are more important now than ever as our church reaches out to provide spiritual comfort and support to those in need. May God's love be deep in your hearts, and we can hardly wait to be together for joy in 2021.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and mild and sweet their songs repeat, a peace on earth, goodwill to men, and the bells are ringing peace on earth, like a choir they're singing peace on earth. In my heart I hear them peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song. A peace on earth, goodwill to men, goodwill to men. But the bells are ringing peace on earth, like a choir they're singing. Does anybody hear them? Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then rang the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor does he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chance sublime, of peace on earth, goodwill to men, and the bells are ringing like a choir they're singing, and with our hearts we'll hear them. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Do you hear the bells are ringing like the angels singing? Open up your heart and hear them. Peace on earth, goodwill to men. Peace on earth, peace on earth, peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Good morning, everybody. Boy, I'd love to see your faces again. I really miss your hugs. But if you'll join me now in a time of prayer, and it seems to help to breathe in and breathe deeply and then breathe out. I learned that the biblical languages actually use the same word for breath or for wind as they did for spirit. And us Americans seem to be so tense all the time that we are shallow breathers. So take it all in and let it all out. Some people like to breathe in the life, love, let go of all the tension and dross. One more time. Out. God, healing force, joy-giving spirit, source and sustainer of life, of love, of peace. In this quiet time of isolation, of Advent, and of an upcoming reflection on a fresh new year, help us to use this time to go deeper and higher. We really can't be satisfied with our littleness. We're always asking not for too much, but for far too little. Raise us up from our belittling pack of beliefs about ourselves and about others. Help us let go of our growing sack of complaints and our cherished bag of injustices done to us or to our group. Help us completely reframe the damning storylines we create about who others are, or even those deep-seated fears and judgments that we make about ourselves. We didn't make ourselves. Neither did our world make us. You did. You're the author of what we truly are, and you create only like yourself. We can't begin to imagine how whole and how holy we are at our core. There's no way we can change that. We only hide it or disown it. Help us to see past the silly mistakes that we and others make and learn to laugh at ourselves. You can't see any sin in us or anything to blame in your creation. You see only our various and sad detours that we make on our way back to you and to our own real self. Help us look for the evidences of how wrapped in innocence and love we are, and how we're seen by you in the same way that loving parents see their children and their mistakes. Help us trust that we're never alone, that we're always safe. Help us learn that nothing outside us is ever hurting us. It's only our own thoughts about stuff that hurts us. Everything can be used for our learning. Help us every time that we step back, pause, quiet down. Help us listen to our inner sense, those hints from our higher or deeper self, and choose afresh what we now want to see and to say. We need to do this work on ourselves, not just for our own sakes, but for all those others that share life with us, known and unknown to us. So many are struggling with grief or threatening situations. When we do this work on ourselves, we do it for them as well. We're all knit together far more than any of us can begin to realize. And as we grow in compassion, we discover who we really are. And we gain a profound sense of self. And also a growing understanding that we're part of a much larger, beloved community embraced by you. Thank you. You bring us home to ourselves and to each other. We're so glad for that. So let it be. Amen.
I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hour to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with a light of love. I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hour to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with a light of love.
A reading from Isaiah 61. The Spirit of God is upon me, because God has anointed me, and has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, and to provide for those who mourn in Zion, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. As I start the commentary today, I want to introduce to you a new Christmas carol. Well, maybe not new and maybe not Christmas, because it's more of an Epiphany, We Three Kings type of carol. In fact, it follows that same tune. And believe me, I've heard enough that, kings aren't still yet there at Christmas Eve, but I'm singing it as if it is true anyway. So here you go. We three kings are 6 feet apart. We'll parole before we depart. We've been tested as suggested. Careful are we and smart. You know this part. Oh, do our masks go with our gowns? Do these face shields hide our crowns? We've had plenty, 2020. Still we head toward David's town. What a great way to try to describe this year, which has put all of our expectations in different spaces. All of how we typically see things, all of how we typically react to things have been tested and challenged and questioned this year. And essentially we've been asked, what are we expecting? Because this year has challenged us to re-examine everything. And it has been so relentless in that re-examination that it's felt almost like the last week of a semester when we were in school, but not just for 1 week, week after week after week, and everything is due and all the tension continues on and on and on. And frankly, that week after week has left us weak. And as we hear about one more obstacle, one more diagnosis, one more death, and with the numbers growing up dramatically, that helplessness easily returns. And it seems that 6 feet and masks and isolation aren't nearly enough to assuage our fears and our concerns. So how do we get through this year? The same way we always got through those last weeks of the semester. In the December exams, in the May assignments, we looked towards what was ahead: Christmas vacation and summer vacation. Even in that week, which is probably the hardest of all, that last week of the last year in school, we looked towards the release of graduation. And those lights which flickered on the edges, the far edges sometime on the other side of those difficult times, gave us the strength, the ability to carry on. Carried us through all the readings, all the assignments, all the tests, giving us the strength to somehow endure in the midst of that. Whatever that was, whatever the moment was bringing. And our moment has certainly brought a lot. But it's neither the first nor the last of such moments, and not even necessarily the most difficult, no matter how much it feels like it to us right now. It's not the most difficult, probably either personally nor corporately, but it certainly feels that way, doesn't it? But others have trod this type of difficult road, and we can learn from their journey. Maya Angelou, in that poem that was read so wonderfully by her and by Shannon, talks about the African-American experience and about how she tries to draw them beyond that. Look at this meme. I just love the way she looks as she reads her poetry. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, but still like air, I'll rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Others have gone through times like this and have discovered that what you have to do is find the power beyond just this moment. I believe that power is joy. That no matter how difficult, how challenging, how much you do not like or want to be in the current space, there is something that can give you hope that there's a chance beyond this, that can uplift your spirits. Because joy is not based only on this moment, but on a larger view. It doesn't follow just the rules of the moment, because it speaks a more comprehensive story that looks broader and deeper, higher and farther than just this moment. This moment doesn't control joy, no matter how hard it tries. I saw a great meme this week about a front yard decoration. Look at this. I think this explains much of this year. Instead of saying joy, the J has fallen, and so it says oi. How challenging it has been all through this year. That type of word has escaped my lips on a regular basis. But even COVID-19 can't take away joy. It's tried. It's still trying very hard. Because joy is based on something deeper and less ethereal than all with which we typically interact. And just like the presidential administration will eventually come to an end, even something like COVID speaks a temporary message. Joyce Hiffler said, "Joy is not of the emotions, but of the spirit, and it can bubble up and grow in our weakest moments." TLS sang one of my favorite Christmas songs, "I Heard the Bells on Christmas Eve." And I think I like it so much because Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who wrote it, was not in the best of moments, and it reflects in that song. His wife had died earlier, just a year or so before, and his wife had just his son had just gone off to the Civil War. And in the midst of that struggle, that mighty struggle which was tearing our country apart, he wrote this song about Christmas bells, and about hearing their old familiar carol play and having them speak to him of a deeper, farther truth. And it wasn't easy. If you remember, one of the verses says, "And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. But then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men." This moment tells us to expect more. This moment shows us only small images of what to expect, but joy, it calls us to expect larger. Will we? Will we stop believing just in COVID, just in presidential politics, or can we believe in a beloved community? Something that will draw us beyond just right now. Hannah Arendt, in her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, tried to describe the susceptibility to propaganda of the atomized modern masses, obsessed with a desire to escape from reality because in their essential homelessness, they can no longer bear its accidental, incomprehensible aspects. They seek refuge in a man-made pattern of relative consistency that bears little relation to reality. Now, she likes to use a lot of big words, and they're great words. But what she essentially means is that we choose to believe in an easily accessible lie rather than the more complicated, more distant, and relatively quiet truth. The bottom line, because it's easier. Joy is always present, but it often sits at the edges. Joy is always shining, but often it is obscured by other things in front of us. We take the easy route instead of searching for that which is more important, which is deeper, which is more essential to our communities and our souls. We often do that because that means that we will put on someone else the burden of carrying the struggles, the difficulties. But when we do that, we abdicate our responsibility in the moment. Joy calls us to see and live into that larger truth, and not just for us, but for the rest of the world. When we can, in some way or another, move beyond someone else has to solve it and become the solution, we discover joy. But be warned, that truth that we're looking for, that joy that we discover, will change us, not just once, but continually. For joy is not a passive event. It is not a fleeting happenstance. It speaks of the deepest meaning in this life. It is that which gives brilliance and vibrancy to faith, to hope, to peace, and even to love. And it gives us strength and purpose for the hard work ahead of us. Gabby Giffords in this meme said it this way: we are at a crossroads. We cannot let the shooting continue. We can let the shooting continue, or we can act. Joy calls us to act because it says there's something more than whatever is going against us. It is a call for us to change the world around us, for you to change the world around you. For it's the stuff of the most profound side of this existence, and it will always call us to our deeper, richest, truer selves. And that will not be an easy journey, either alone or corporately. Both those journeys are difficult. Barbara Brown Taylor said, "My life depends on ignoring all touted distinctions between the secular and the sacred, the physical and the spiritual, the body and the soul. What is saving my life now is becoming more fully human, trusting that there is no way to God apart from the real life in the real world." Joy calls us right where we are, to see that in the midst of the muck and mire of this moment, there is something more, something of heaven in the very earthly experience where we live. And if we are only waiting for that to happen someday, we will never discover joy. We must see it in the here and now. And that is not just as individuals, but as communities. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said this: "To make life a little better for people less fortunate than you, that's what I think a meaningful life is. One lives not just for oneself, but for one's community." That joy is that which gives the ultimate purpose, and the ultimate purpose in our life is us, the body of us, the community around us. It is us building something more than what we were given, changing it to something that it's never seen before. Isaiah 61, our scripture, speaks to that. This is Isaiah speaking in the midst of the falling apart of Israel, and it's the words that Jesus spoke as he began his ministry here on earth. And it talks about how the Spirit of God has anointed us. And then it lists the things that we are to do. Bring good news to the oppressed. Bind up the brokenhearted. Proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners. Proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Comfort all who mourn. Provide for those who mourn in Zion. Give them a garland instead of ashes. The oil of gladness instead of mourning. Our job is to somehow proclaim that in the midst of whatever is going on, and this year there is a lot going on that is oppressive, that is difficult, that is challenging, and in the midst of that, to proclaim that there is also joy, something beyond that, something, not just happiness that depends on today's events, but joy which carries an uplifting of spirit even in the most difficult of times. You see, what he's calling us to is beloved community, that space where a deeper sense of joy lives. But we must discover that again and again, because life will continue to speak other things. None of us are getting younger, and the joints will creak more than they did yesterday. And yet, joy is still possible in the midst of that. We face some challenging things ahead. For example, the foreclosure possibilities that are coming on January 1st when the moratorium dies. And that could affect economically our communities deeply. How do we, in the midst of that, speak something more than just the difficulties? Sometimes it's easy for us to say, well, it's not me that's going to be evicted, but it is us who can be present in the midst of that, to change that. Pope Francis, who, I just got to tell you, I just love who he is and how he acts in the world. And this is what he said about this. Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for their own noses. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are born to help each other, no matter how difficult it is. Life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are joyful because of you. He calls us to remind ourselves as well as others that this present moment isn't the truth. We help others not just because they need food, and as important as that is, and as important as it is that we do it, we also put that food in front of someone who is hungry so that they will be able to see more than just their lack of food. When someone is out of work and we give them a chance to work, we are not just doing that so they have a bit of money in their pocket, but also so they can see more than whatever that money is taking away from them. We have to help each other if we truly want to be the beloved community. And we have two choices about how to show joy and how to help people understand that. One is that we can show where joy lives in the midst of the challenges, because even when it's darkest, there are still ways to be able to find light. And even when life is gloomiest, joy can still sparkle there. But we can also choose to remove the obstacles that are keeping joy from being seen. That we help someone who's hungry. We lift up someone who's weak. We take care of the one who has been beaten or is imprisoned. We release the captives, as Isaiah said. To do that, we must become people of joy. I love this meme, not for what it says, but for what it calls me to. The meme says, stay close to people who feel like sunshine. And what I want you to know is, don't stay close so much to people who feel like sunshine. Be the person who feels like sunshine so that others can stay close to you. So that in the midst of whatever it is that's making it so that they can't see whatever sun they ought to be able to see, whatever joy is around them, be the one that begins to introduce that joy into their life. David spoke wonderfully about how we are together for joy at St. Francis. And that's why we are a community, to somehow bring together that searching for joy and bring it together in such a way that we show each other what joy can truly be. Beverly Elaine Eves wrote a thing about joy that I just love. She said, waiting, such as that which we are going through, waiting for all the different things that are not perfect. Waiting tests our grit and our faith. May you appreciate the unfolding of your creative joy as your imagination soars. May you leap for joy with faith in God's timing. May you let go of bitterness and allow forgiveness to graciously fill your life. May you experience joy in the moment and move forth with the words of God. May playfulness infuse the serious purpose of your life, and may you share the joy of that play and laughter so that others too might find happiness. In this time where there is so much that speaks a darker, challenging message, speak joy. Speak it every day. Search for it and show it to others so that together we may change this moment into what it needs to be. Amen.
Winter is the oldest season, but quietly beneath the snow, seeds are stretching out and reaching, faithful as the morning glow.
Carry nothing but what you must.
Lean in toward the light.
Let it go, shake off the dust.
Lean in toward the light.
Today is now, tomorrow beckons.
Lean in toward the light.
Keep practicing resurrection.
Lean in toward the light.
The shadows of this world will say, there's no hope, why try anyway? Every kindness, large or slight, shifts the balance toward the light.
Waters wide and open wide. Lean in toward the light.
Don't just walk when you can fly.
Lean in toward the light.
Where justice seems in short supply.
Lean in toward the light.
Let pity be your truest guide.
Lean in toward the light.
The shadows of this world will say, there's no hope, I try anyway. Every kindness, large or slight, shifts the balance toward the light.
The prayer I pray at eventide. Lean in toward the light.
All left undone be put aside.
Lean in toward the light.
When forgiveness is hard to find.
Lean in toward the light.
Help me at least to be kind.
Lean in toward the light.
Lean in, yeah. Lean in
Toward the light.
Lean in,
Toward the light.
Lean in toward the light.
For your benediction today, I want to read to you something that my friend Tweety Sombrero, a Navajo native, sent to me. And I want you to receive it as that benediction. I want to do it twice. One, in the way that she sent it to me, but in the second time, I want to insert the word joy. So it says this: May I walk in beauty, beauty behind me, beauty in front of me, beauty to the right and to the left of me, beauty above and beneath me, beauty all around and within me. May I walk in joy, joy behind me, joy in front of me, joy to the right and to the left of me, joy above and beneath me, joy all around me and within me. Amen.
For everyone born, a place at the table. For everyone born, clean water and bread, a shelter, a space, a safe place for growing. For everyone born, a star overhead. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy. For everyone born, a place at the table, to live without fear and simply to be, to work and speak out for mercy and kindness. For everyone born, the right to be free. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice, justice and joy.